Right. Hey guys, Shockwave here. Sorry I haven't been here for a while. It's been uh having a little bit of an issue, a few issues. And if you're wondering why I have an ice pack on my jaw, sorry. I have an infected tooth, or at least I hope I don't. It just seems to be a little bit of swelling. This is wisdom tooth stuff. Anyways, the reason why I'm making this video obviously is because new ships dropped last week. I haven't actually done one of these devlog videos. I've wanted to do these for a while, but I kept stalling on it for some reason. And here we are. We have a new devlog. New ships. Close test 12.4. So what are we getting? We're getting Spanish cruisers. Ever since Canarias was added, I think like a year ago at this point. We kind of expected this to come along, so we are. We're getting a Dutch cruiser, Von Spee, German cruiser Shield, and Pan-Asian destroyer Liu Shun. Liu Shun, it's got the umlaut, so I'm expecting it's Liu Shun. Let's just double check this. Just got some mail. All right, whatever. All right, so we got a new tech tree, so that's cool. It's whatever. All right, so what do they got? They've got burst fire. That's kind of probably the critical thing to know here. They have burst fire, and this has led to a few interesting theories that have come up between me and the rest of the CST community. Sort of still trying to figure this one out. Anyways, so it starts from tier 7. They've got good speed, good ballistics, relatively low DPM, torpedoes, short range torpedoes, good concealment, but relatively mediocre maneuverability. Consumable choices: Hydro DFA starting from tier 6. I mean, that's fairly standard. Hydro starting from tier 4. It's fairly standard. DFA starting from tier 6. That's also fairly standard. Repair party and fighter repair party is now this I think has been misunderstood. Repair party. I did go over the blog. It will be available in a separate slot starting from tier 7. And you will get a fighter and or a spotter in one slot starting from tier 7 as well. So we're going to go with that. So just going to the bottom here really quickly, we also have 3 more ships. We have the Shill, Von Spee, and we have Liu Shun. All right, so we're going to start with the tier 1, Jupiter. It's a tier 1, obviously. I mean, nothing really special about it. Not sure what to expect. Tier 2, Mendez Nunez. Mendez Nunez. Let me just clarify. It's pronounced Mendez Nunez, not Mendez Nunes. I know someone will pronounce it, and then all of a sudden the Spanish forums are going to go crazy because they do. It's Mendez Nunez. That's the name of the ship. Navarra? I don't know how to pronounce this one. It's Navarra, I think. Navarra. Almirante Cervera. Galicia. Baleares. Asturias. It's a little bit of pronunciation on the Asturias part. Catalunya. You've heard of the Catalunya run in Spain. Famous race there. Andalusia and Castilla. The 2 L's. I believe Fon made a video on this. He's like, is it Castilla? No, it's Castilla. The 2 L's are pronounced as a Y. Okay? Just to clarify, that's how you pronounce the names of the ships. That's how it goes. Okay? We go over the starting with Jupiter. Start with the history of the ship. In the 1930s, Spain began building a new class of mine layers. I know some people are going, oh my god, mine layers are coming to the game. No, they're not. Alright, just relax. Mine layers, this is a tier 1. Why would mines be a tier 1? I can't possibly fathom they would do such a thing. Right? They were also gunboats. As you can see, they have like, I think 4 guns. There's 2 front, 2 back. Relatively boxy structure, kind of compact. And this flag thing you're going to see is relatively is going to be a reoccurring theme throughout the entire line. You're going to see this popping up quite a lot because that's just how it goes. Mendes Nunez, you can see it has 5 guns, obviously. It does also have torpedo tubes, I believe. You can see those, like, right there. I don't know. Sorry, I was on a bit of a cold. Allergies. Nevada. This is represented in the Pan American tech tree by the Vicente Guerrero, with basically the same ship. You can sort of see it as the same ship, in fact. Where's my chapstick? Sorry. So basically, the tier 1 through the tier 6 are all real ships that took part in the a little bit of a history lesson for you guys. In the 1930s, there was a civil war in Spain between the nationalists and the Republicans. The nationalists obviously led by Francisco Franco. Actually, let me just double check it. You guys can see this yourselves as well. Francisco Franco Bahamonde was a Spanish military general who led the nationalist forces in overthrowing the Second Spanish Republic during the Spanish Civil War, and thereafter ruled over Spain from 1939 to 1975 as a dictator, assuming the title caudillo. So you guys can see there is the difference between the Republic and the nationalists. The Republic obviously was the sort of democratic government that was introduced into Spain during the 1930s. Francisco Franco was obviously the nationalist leader. Aligned with Mussolini, Hitler, and the like, essentially. Now, Almirante Cervera, you can see it's got a 1x2. I don't know how many guns this has. We'll check in the devblog down below. Relatively long boy. Probably one of the common themes is that the noses tend to be quite long. This is a pretty big gun. It looks like, I think these might be 120mm single mounts. So just another reference, obviously, most of the ships are either British design or Italian design, and I know a lot of people are going to be complaining that, oh, it's just fantasy ships, yada yada. Well, here's the thing, right? Napoli, as we see it in the game, was actually inspired by a Spanish design, Project 135, as we see it in the game. Well, basically, the ultimate culmination of Project 135. I might also be wrong on that, but I'll have to check. Same thing with the Andalusia and the Castilla. The Andalusia and Castilla were essentially the precursors to the Napoli as we see it in game, because Ansaldo helped develop the Napoli and the Castilla same time roughly as the Russian cruiser killer project, 1936 Ansaldo cruiser killer project that initially was developing for the Soviet Union at the time. But some of the lower tiers, obviously, you can quite obviously see the British influence design, or they're indigenously developed, well, national flavor essentially. So Galicia obviously has some of the same things. You can sort of see this, the inspiration from those, the Chungking, those Arethusa class cruisers, quite obviously. Baleares was based on the County class, so you can see that with the 4x2 layout. In this one, also does get the torpedo tubes, unlike the Canarias, so that's a big bonus. Asturias, I mean, you can probably see a little of the Zara class in it. Very obviously based on the Ansaldo, the Zara class cruisers. You can see with the turret design, it's you can see that, and it's also very easy and very convenient way of wargaming, just reusing assets in this situation, which is honestly a smart move, if you ask me, because, like, that's what I would do, frankly. Like, because most of the Spanish designs are actually based on Italians, as I just said. So it's very easy for wargaming to just turn around and say that, oh, we can just use this, which is actually a valid excuse in this case. Same thing with Catalunya. Catalunya is based on the Amalfi, the IX-203 project from, I think it was Ozio, or I could be wrong, might be Ansaldo. It does say Ansaldo, but I don't know. You can definitely see the Amalfi-esque origin in the design, and so sort of the contemporary design there. On the Lucia, you can also see the you can see that, I mean, this does have Drake guns. But you can also see that it's a very Spanish-inspired hull. It looks, I mean, you could probably say it looks like a bit like an oversized Elding. Take a look at the hull design itself. It's very slender, very long, very smooth. But you can obviously see that it is also very much, it's very much Italian-inspired. And you can also see this with the Castilla, which is also very much Italian-inspired, with those with 254mm guns, because that's essentially what Project 135 used. It doesn't say whether or not this was Project 135, but I can more or less confirm that it is, based upon what I know. If any history nerds can correct me on this. Anyways, so we also have these, the Shill, which is essentially, you know, pocket battleship raider. Basically, it was the successor to the Spee, designated as the P class. It was actually named as a Hanselsister. Very, very apt German name, as usual. Von Spee, this is basically a Harlem at tier 9. We won't have stats on this until, I think, probably next week, or something like that. So expect that fairly soon. Lucian is basically just a Nostrashi. So now we're going to go over the stats, obviously, because that's quite important. So I'm going to start with the tier 1. I mean, we can probably skip to like tier 4, tier 5, because that's when things start to become more or less relevant. But yeah. Anyways, Jupiter 7400. That puts it smack in the middle of most tier 1 cruisers, I would say. Actually, I can bring up shiptool.st. Let me see if we can bring this up, and we can take a look at this as well, just as a nations. Take a look at this. Take a look at this. So the tier 1s, tech tree, cruiser, all. So 7,400 health more or less puts it like towards the top. So in terms of health, that would be like 7,400 is essentially the same as the Bougainville, a little bit. So like towards the top. Guns, obviously, these are 120mm guns. I mean, you could tell essentially that these were 120s just by taking a look at the turrets. These are like the same turrets you'll find on like the Gallant and the Acosta and such, like the mid-tier, below mid-tier British destroyers, essentially. I mean, it's a tier 1. What else do you want me to say? It's not that fast, but it turns very well. Very good detectability, good rudder shift time. Pretty good HE. Seems pretty okay. I mean, look, it's just a tier 1. I don't know who would actually play this for more than one battle. Unless, you know, there are some people who do that. You know what I'm talking about. Mendes Nunez, 20,800 health. 8 single 120mm guns. I actually didn't see that. What? Okay, so I don't see how does 8. Oh no, it's got those side mounts there. So it's got 3 there. It's got those 2 side mounts, and it's got presumably 3 more in the back there. So it's got 8 single 120mm guns. So that's pretty cool. And the reload on these appears to be, what is it? 10 seconds. It's actually kind of long for tier 2. I know, like, some of the tier 2 cruisers have, like, I can take a look. Let's just take a look at, like, tier 2 main battery characteristics. So, okay, so, like, the longest reload at tier 2 is the Chikuma at 11.5. So it would be between, like, Weymouth and Nino Bixio. So DPM might actually be pretty relatively okay-ish, considering that's a lot of guns. But Dresden obviously has, you know, Dresden and Novak obviously have some of the highest DPM at this tier, but they have very floaty ballistics. Oh no. So it's up for a toss, really. The only problem I see with this is that these are, again, British 120mm guns. I'm not sure why this has such a sluggish reload. 10 seconds is a long time. Turret traverse, I mean, it's really normal. And I was right, it does have torpedoes. Short-range torpedoes, low speed, do actually a lot of damage for tier 2. Like, you can, like, that much torpedo fire per hour is going to one-shot pretty much any tier 2 cruiser And as far as I know, no other tier 2 cruiser actually has torpedoes. I think Nino Bixio has like one. So secondary armaments. Yeah, no, that doesn't help. Yeah, I don't think any tier 2 cruiser actually has torpedoes. So this is going to be the first tier 2 cruiser with torpedoes. So now we have Nevada, tier 3. Let's take a look. 21,200 health. It's pretty standard. Good general characteristics again with 3. So only 4 cruisers at tier 3, by the way, have torpedoes. This will be the 5th. So health actually seems, again, the health spread isn't that enormous. I mean, the only health spread we really have to consider is, oh, I forgot premium cruisers. Whatever. Well, largely the same. The health spread isn't actually that enormous. The only, like, major health spread is, like, at the extremes with, like, St. Louis at the high end, like, 30, like, more health than some battleships. And then, like, Ninkai, which has less health than some tier 2s. Like, so it's only the extreme. So it'll be, like, roughly in the middle. So Vicente Guerrero, this is going to be the measuring stick. And it actually has more health than the Vicente Guerrero. And it also appears to have... It appears to have the same firepower, but it's got HE and AP instead of just AP. So it's definitely very useful. Reload, again, is... But the reload, yeah, reload's the same, so it's not really too much of a difference. So the only difference here is that Vicente Guerrero... I'm not sure if Vicente Guerrero does actually get it actually does get a heal, I think. So that's one critical difference to note. Yeah, Vicente Guerrero gets 4 heals. So it's 10% with 50% Citadel repair. I should probably note that Vicente Guerrero does get a heal over the Nevada. So that's one thing to note. Otherwise, tier 3, good, actually relatively good concealment for tier 3, considering that most others don't have good concealment at this tier. Well, most of them do, but I think only Freon's like the... Yeah, I mean, Tenryu is the outlier. That's why it's kind of popular for seal clubbing. But I digress. So again, fairly middle of the pack. So now we have Almirante Cervera. It has a 3x2, 2x1 configuration with 152mm guns. So that's a total of 7 guns, one step up from the Nevada. We have a little bit of extra DPM, so you can see that single 152 turret out front. Kind of the same as the single turret on the Nevada, but in the Cervera, the powder bag, the bag is a little bit, the muzzle bag is a bit different, so to speak. Otherwise, it has the twin turrets. Relatively slender-looking hull. Looks pretty good. And the only problem is, of course, those giant flags, but, you know, it's whatever. So now we've got a bit of a step up in health. 26,500 health, 13mm plating, fairly standard stuff. Torpedo armaments on the... Comparing the torpedo armament, obviously, I mean... Actually, there is no torpedo. Weirdly enough, there's no torpedo armaments on the Nevada, which is weird. But then the Cervera does get torpedoes, and it gets a lot of them. It gets 4 triple 533mm torpedo tubes, 6km range. Pretty good damage. I mean, this thing could be pretty dangerous in YOLO Rush, not gonna lie. I can imagine this being very dangerous in YOLO Rush. Secondaries can be digressed. You know, and now we're going to get to tier 4, so obviously AA is going to start being a concern. It's a tier 4 cruiser. Have no expectations. 1 flak is not going to do anything. Fairly quick for a tier 4 cruiser, actually. I don't know what the average speed of a tier 4 cruiser is, but it's pretty good, isn't it? Yeah, 33 knots is towards the middle. So same speed as the Duguay, but the turning radius is going to be the critical difference, I think. So what's the turning radius here at this 680? So this actually will have the worst turning radius at tier 4. So that's 680, so it's 10 meters worse. And the rudder shift appears to be 7.7, which is also towards the worst part of the pack. So that's not that good. That's actually fairly concerning, to say the least. So, not good, but manageable. And the health pool appears to also be towards the top of the list. 26,500 health. It's only 200 less health than the Duguay, but it does get a heal. It's one of only 3 cruisers that will get a heal at this tier. So that's something to note, which is actually very important because getting a heal at low tiers is. No, it doesn't get a heal. Wait, no, I'm being dumb. Sorry. So Cordoba is the only one of the. Let me clarify. Clarification. This does not get a heal. It's only from tier 7 that you get a heal. Right? Not from tier 4, not from tier 3. You get a heal at tier 7. Okay? Let me just throw that out there very quickly. So I'm being dumb. My bad. Anyways, so surface detect actually is going to be pretty good. I don't know why Cordoba's surface detect is 8 kilometers. It's kind of weird. But surface detect on this looks to be 10.2. So right between Kajua and Dane. It's actually quite good. And yeah. It doesn't actually look too bad, honestly. This looks like a pretty solid tier 4. The only problem is we don't look. I mean, armor's just going to be tier 4 cruisers. It's just going to explode the moment it looked at. So it's not too much of a concern. My only concern with this is that this has potentially the highest broadside firepower of any of the. I don't know what the torpedo firepower is at this tier. I know it's huge. Like I know Iwaki Alpha is kind of an outlier, but it's Iwaki Alpha. Sosubari. This is going to have be on the higher ends of the torpedo Alpha. But the question is, what's the reload? 72 seconds. So that's towards, like, the latter half. So, like, between Iwaki Alpha and Dene. So, yeah, pretty good torpedo power I'm seeing here on this tier 4. So it could be a pretty nasty YOLO monster. It also depends on firing angles as well, so we'll see. Otherwise, I mean, it's a tier 4. Kind of forgettable, to say the least. You get a Hydro and damage control. You get a Hydro, so that's useful, because a lot of tiers are infested with DDs anyways. Next, Galicia. Yeah, let's take a look. And this one doesn't look too spicy. So it's got 8 152s now. So that's immediately, so it's going like a step up with one gun from tier 4, 3 to 4 to 5. 27,800 health. Doesn't seem to be a lot. So, I mean, okay, Hawkins has, like, way more health than a tier 5 cruiser should ever have, but I don't know. 27,800 health puts it kind of towards the top, actually. That's actually kind of good. That puts it into 5th behind the Exeter. It's in front of Emeralds, but again, no heal, so that's an issue. Although I would say that this line should get a heal of that order, because, again, cruisers do need heals. Just gonna go on, like, again, cruisers do need heals, like, especially the low mid-tier cruisers, because battleships are stupidly oppressive. Once you get to, like, tier 5, 6, 7, battleships become ridiculously oppressive, and then it starts to balance itself out towards tier 8, 9, 10 super ships. But battleships still have an absurd advantage over cruisers because they can recover damage, whereas most of them until tier 9 cannot. And tier 8 cruisers are especially hit the hardest by this because, well, you know, you're fighting tier 10 battleships. You get chunked for like half your health in one salvo. You're not getting that back. So, again. But yeah, this puts it towards the top of the tier 8-5 cruiser list in terms of health. Firepower 4x2 152. I mean, that's fairly standard. So 4x2 152. HE DPM, I mean, highest HE DPM. I mean, you're going to be you're talking like around, it's basically the same firepower with Kotovsky, Celebes, and the like. So, yeah, not like, you know, an overly large issue. This is fairly standard firepower for a tier 5 cruiser. So, like Montecacholi, find, you know, Kotovsky. I think, yeah, there's a few standouts at this tier in terms of firepower. Like, Königsberg has insane AP DPM, and it can lay, I mean, consider that Königsberg does also overmatch DDs at this tier, because DDs at this tier only get 10mm plating, I think. I need to check that, but you can probably just get away with spamming AP at most things with Königsberg, and it's nuts, because, again, 280,000 AP DPM at tier 5 is insane. But yeah, ballistics actually look really good, which is surprising. 900 meter per second ballistics at tier 5 is insane. Reload's kind of long though, at 11 seconds. I think the tier 4, the yeah, 10 seconds at the tier 3. Then we go to 12 seconds on the tier 4, which is actually really long. Very surprisingly long. It's not good. And you go to tier 5, which has an 11-second reload, which is a little bit better. I think I'll put it like around the same level as not the same level as Kotovsky, a little worse. The ballistics will certainly be a lot better than Kotovsky, I can say that much with certainty. The hull might also be better, where it doesn't get HE penned by freaking Nurembergs and shit. So yeah. Torpedo power is significantly decreased on the tier 5, it appears. Only 2 triple tubes. Not much of an improvement. So that's actually a downgrade. But you do get slightly better concealment, it seems. And a slightly better radius. Now, same radius and a worse rudder time. Slightly better concealment. But yeah. You also start to get ASW here, so that's useful, because you're going to fight tier 6 submarines at this point. So, torpedo reload time's also gone up for some reason, because it was 72 seconds on the tier 4, and then it goes to tier 5 with 88 seconds. What odd. Not sure why. Anyways, again, damage control hydrogenetics. Alright, tier 6, Baleares. Now we're going to step up to the big guns. We're going to step up to 203mm guns at tier 6, but a decrease in range, actually. So tier 5, you have 15-kilometer range. On the tier 6, you only get 14.2. Now, if I recall correctly, what does this mean? Canarios get 16.1. So that's, which is the longest range, well, one of the longer ranges at tier 6. So it's kind of different. I also would go over the AP alpha numbers, but, I mean, up to this point, it's been fairly standard for their caliber, so it's not really worth considering, because there's no standout numbers here at all. Like, there's no, like, insane HE alpha or, like, insane AP alpha differences. So, that's just for consideration. It's not, these numbers don't really deviate too much from the average, so to speak. Like, I think even Cleveland is, like, if you take the average, like, tier 5 cruiser, like, in terms of AP alpha, like, this is, like, standard. This is, like, this barely changes at all. Anyways, so then we're going to go to the tier 6. We have Baleares, sister ships of the Canarias. We now have 4 triple tubes again. Vastly improved damage. We now have basically British warheads. 7 more range, so that's useful. Better reload time on the tier 6 too, tier 5 too. That not worth talking about. You get the reflex, so that's nice. Speed's still the same. Radius has gone up significantly, so has the rudder shift time. Detectability has also gone up. But the critical point is now that we have 203mm guns. Again, the values are not really out of line with any any of the normal tier, like, heavy cruiser guns at this tier. Heavy cruisers actually tend to be pretty oppressive at this tier, because you can overmatch light cruisers. Like, you can overmatch light cruisers that are 1 tier lower than you. And you also tend to be durable enough that you can last against battleships with proper angling and such. Fire chance is pretty spicy. I mean, it's 15%, fairly standard. Again, numbers are looking fairly standard on, alpha and such. Reload time is 13 seconds. I think the reload time on the Canarias is like 12 or something like that. I'm not sure. I'll have to check. What's the reload time on the... Okay, deploy is still here. Canarias' reload is 12 seconds. So it's a second slower than Canarias, but you do get a HE and AP on the Baleares compared to the Canarias, but it's not improved AP, it's just normal AP. Canarias gets the Royal Navy AP, I believe. Anyways, so now you get long range, you get, depth charge bombs, obviously. But yeah, so essentially comparing the Canarias to the Baleares, you lose the insane engine boost. You actually lose some concealment as well. I think your surface concealment is 1.7. I believe the concealment on the Canarias base is... what was this? What is concealment on this? Hello? Oh no, the guns. 1.7. Canarias is 1.1. This is 1.7. So that's one quick change that has actually that should actually be noted. So that's one critical difference. Slightly worse concealment. Why am I rambling on that? Anyways, you also don't get the engine boost, you don't get the improved AP, but you do get torpedoes and you get high explosive. So that's a pretty good trade-offs, comparing Protectory to premiums. Asturias. So now we're gonna just give a picture of the Cervera. There's your Cervera, Galicia, and Baleares. We got to the Asturias. This is a Zara essentially, or Zara. So Asturias. I was called it a Zara. Oops. They have 39,600 hit points. That's a lot for a tier 7. That's a lot, actually. A lot for a tier 7. I think. Okay, so the highest amount of health we have at this tier is the Toulon, with that insane 42,500 health. Well, it's not insane. It's a Toulon. Not surprised. So that's a little bit more than Mayoko. Maya and Mayoko are a little bit faster, though, I think. It's a little bit faster. It should be. No, they're the same speed. Oh, boy. So same speed. Relatively similar health on the Asturias. But it's a 4x2 203s. And these are Italian guns, you can tell, because they have 900 meter per second shell velocity. Baleares obviously has the British guns because slightly slower. You can use, if it's a copy paste type nation, usually you can tell when a nation is like what kind of guns a nation is using. Largely based upon their shell velocities. Like if you see slower guns, you can usually tell it's American or British. It's faster, it's usually Italian or Soviet or German. You can tell that. Anyways, so yeah, 39,600 health, 60mm inflating, so that's a bit of a step up. Italian guns, obviously. So this is where we're going to start seeing the burst fire at this tier. And this has actually been a bit of a point of debate. So we've been theory crafting. Me and the other testers have been theory crafting, because these haven't hit testing phase yet. We're probably going to see this on CST relatively soon. We've been kind of trying to theory craft, like, okay, what are the stats going to look like on this? What's this going to be? So if this has normal penetration, right? This goes one of two ways. If it has a normal penetration, right? We're going to end up doubling the penetration. If you take a look at Zara's pen graph, I want to go to WoW's FT. Right, so these are essentially Zara guns. Accelerated Chart, Italy, Cruiser, Zara. So this is the penetration graph. So it has just over 460 millimeters of penetration at point blank range. So if this is a 100% penetration boost, which it is, essentially, and if it uses normal penetration, then we're looking at over 900 millimeters of penetration initial. And we're looking at over 520 millimeters of penetration out to 10 kilometers, which is going to be optimal engagement range most likely. The other theory is that it's going to have GIMP penetration, like 300 millimeters of penetration, and then the alt-fire will boost it to like 600 millimeters of penetration. So there's one of two theories. We don't know which one's going to be which. We're going to find out as soon as the data miners get to work, and we can see like what it's going to end up being, so to speak. So yeah, that's the critical thing. So you also get bonus damage on the AP, 100% AP penetration bonus, 45-second reload on the burst, 2 shots with a 1.2 second interval. I think that's the same as Condé. Might be the same as Condé. Yeah, it's Condé essentially. You get an extra flight in your depth charges. You get less torpedoes in a larger launcher. You get more range, though, slightly more damage, longer reload, essentially. This is a fast cruiser, though. So the radius on this, though, is kind of large. I think the largest radius at this tier is Shor's, then Lazo, and then this is going to be somewhere between those two. I'm not sure why Shor's has a 900-meter radius. It's kind of a question. Seems unnecessary, and considering that Shor's isn't, I mean, yeah, it's fast, but considering, how poorly it turns, it's kind of weird, but, oh well, you can only ask for so much. Rudder shift is going to be towards the worst end of the spectrum. It's going to be like, what, 10.2, so slightly worse than Maya's, better than Toulon's, but considering that most of tier 7 cruisers handle appear to handle significantly better than this. Even like most of the heavy cruisers will end up handling significantly better than this because they have similar power to weight, and they'll also have slightly faster rudder shifts and tighter radii. So this might be a bit of a pig. We'll have to see. I mean, it's not like an outlier like we have with Gorizia and Zara, which turn in 580 meters for some reason. I don't know why these have like destroyer turning radii. That needs to be looked into. I'm not sure. Or no, it's not going to be like a good handler like New Orleans either, which has a 7-second rudder shift on a 660-meter radius for some reason, which is nuts. But yeah, so you're gonna have that. So we don't know. Like, it's probably not going to handle very well. I mean, they did say relatively mediocre handling. It's fast. 35 knots is fast for a cruiser, especially a mid-tier cruiser. It's fast, but the turning radius is kind of oof. Detectability is also not that good. 13.8 minimizes to 12.4. And what that ends up being is like kind of on the high end for a cruiser. But yeah. But it's compensated because you do get a repair party at this tier. You also get the fighter spotter. A spotter is also going to be very useful if you want to snipe people across the map with that alt fire. Assuming the alt fire is going to be, the first way in that it effectively doubles the initial penetration of the guns. And the pen isn't gimped. God, I'm starting to imagine, like, oh boy, that'd be funny. Maybe Citadel, pretty much any battleship at the tier with those guns, if it's normal pen. Alright, Catalunya, 40,800 health. Again, it's an Amalfi with slightly different looking guns. Like, these turrets look weird, though. Like, why are these turrets look super Russian? I don't know why they do. You're also going to start noticing that from tier 7, 8, tier 7 onwards, these have German secondary armaments. I'm not sure why they have German secondaries, but I think we all noticed that at first. It was like, why does this have German secondaries? And we have no explanation for it. I mean, the simple answer probably is, well, Italy's 90mm mounts kind of suck. So, yeah, they'd rather use something that doesn't suck nearly as much. The weird thing is that these are the mounts off the Gneisenau and GK, so beats me. So yeah, we have these weird looking guns, 3x3 configuration, very much an Amalfi hull. So this thing doesn't have that much more health than the tier 8, which is kind of odd, because the tier 8 has like a lot of health the tier 7 has a lot of health for a tier 7 cruiser. It's like tier 8 levels, and then the tier 8 is like, well, okay. We're going to, hello, can you work? Oh god, it crashed. Okay, whatever. Oh, so it's going to be like that, huh? Alright, tier 7, tier 8, tier 8. Okay, fantastic. Okay. So we have Congress here with 51,150 health. The health pool on this is basically just going to be, here? Wait, oh, this actually has less health than the Amalfi. So it's going to be like between Mikhail Kutuzov and Arian, right around there. So not a lot of health. Like the smaller cruisers have like, I think the lowest health pool this tier is Harbin, 26,500. And then you guys are going to want to see this later. The shell has kind of an insane health pool. It's going to be kind of funny. I'll show you guys later. So yeah, it's going to end up like right around here between like Atago, Kutuzov, and then get to like the much bigger cruisers like Baltimore, Cheshire, and such. Not a lot of health, but you do get a heal. Firing range isn't that... Oh no, I'm looking at the Asturias. Oopsie daisy. So yeah, 40,800 health. You get 16.5 kilometers of range, which is a lot for a tier 8 cruiser, and in fact, that's actually very good. I think the longest range of this tier, obviously, is Congress. Well, no, it's not Congress. It's Kutuzov at 19.1. And then you have Bagration, but these two are mostly outliers. And then you, like, and then the range goes from, like, 13.5 on Harbin. You go all the way up to, like, 17.7 with Cherbourg. So heavy cruisers tend to fall between, like, 15.6 with the Anchorage, because it's a Buffalo, and then you go all the way to 17.7 with the Cherbourg. So relatively smack dab in the middle of the range for those heavy cruisers. Guns seem to be slightly identical to one of the Asturias, so obviously these are basically just the same guns as the Asturias on the Catalunya. 11-second reload. I think what's the reload on the tier 7? 12. Okay, so reload slightly janks. The reload actually slightly improves over the tiers. That's kind of good. Burst fire cooldown actually decreases from 45 seconds to 40 seconds. So 5-second decrease could be useful, could be not, I'm not sure. You get two shots again, 15% AP damage bonus, 100% to AP shell penetration capacity. So that's going to be useful. Again, this might I mean, we don't know. This could end up just being like, oh, you get like Gimp Pen, and then with a funny button, you get normal penetration, or you get normal penetration to start, and with the alt fire, you can basically delete every single battleship out of existence with a good broadside. We don't know. Because here's the thing, right? If you have enough penetration, you can brute force angling and overmatch and such. So that's something to note. Just double check that. Yeah, no, it doesn't look like we don't know that yet. So that's one thing to note. So yeah, torpedoes are unchanged from the tier 7. Obviously, you do get slightly longer range on the depth charges. Dispersion is, well, it's cruiser dispersion is normal. Don't be surprised by that. Anyways, secondaries, obviously you get the 128mm mounts now. I'm not sure why this is German mounts. Like, why? AA is slightly improved, mid-range is high. Maneuverability is actually significantly improved. You got a 37 knot top speed, 850-meter radius. Rudder shift appears to be... Oh, that's reload. Hang on, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Rudder shift appears towards the high side, 10.3. I think the... So, no, it's slightly middle, but same area and rudder shift. And then you have, like, you know, the insane rudder shift at the lower echelons, like why to switch to a 6-second rudder shift, you know. And then the radius actually looks fairly okay. I mean, it's 850 meters, which is like Congress level, but it's fast, so it kind of compensates in a way. But at the same time, like, that's not great rudder shift or handling for a heavy cruiser. It's fast, but most of the other heavy cruisers that go, I don't know, this fast. I mean, Amalfi has the same top speed, but it has a 680-meter radius. Yeah, the rudder shift's longer, but 680-meter radius is great. And then you have, you know, 790. All these other cruisers have, like, fast cruisers have relatively good rudder shifts. So, I don't know. And then, you know, with Cherbourg, for whatever reason, having a 670-meter radius, I can't explain that. But yeah, concealment is going to be around 1.2 with 13.8-kilometer base concealment. And then again, that boils down to the burst fire. Again, we don't know what it's going to be. We don't know what the base penetration is. If the base penetration turns out to be normal values, this is going to be nuts, because then you can basically sneak up on a battleship. Like, imagine the battleship's here, you got an island here, you can sort of just sneak up on it. Battleship crosses here, you cross here, burst fire into his side, just turn away, and he dies. Like, that's free lunch. So, we don't know. Again, damage control, repair party, hydro, defensive, fighter spotter, the lot, right? So that's useful. So, overall, looking like a fairly solid cruiser. Now we're going to go to tier 9. We have the Andalusia. Drake guns, obviously, very, very odd looking. I don't like the look of this hull. Again, those flags. You just can't avoid the flags. They look nuts. Andalusia, 48,300 hit points. Fairly standard for tier 9 cruiser. Okay. So 49. So that looks to be okay. Yeah, I mean, we start at this tier. We start to get like those gigantic freaking battle cruisers like Kronstadt, Carnot, Aegir, Siegfried, so on, that have huge health pools, right? I mean, Kronstadt, what, 71,000 hit points is a huge outlier. So we're going to have to start looking towards the middle of the pack, obviously. 48,300 hit points falls between Buffalo and Rhone. A little bit more than Drake, which this appears to be based on. So, not entirely sure. But yeah, I mean, this has Drake guns, so don't at me. But yeah, sort of middle of the pack health pool. This looks okay. Guns, obviously, 3 234s. Now, this is the first big step up in penetration or gun power, because now we have essentially, Drake guns, or basically Goliath, Drake, Cheshire guns. So this is the step up in penetration. So base pen is like around 570 millimeters. So if you were to double that, you would end up with over like 1150 millimeters, 1150 millimeters of penetration with that all fire. Now, granted, this doesn't have the accuracy boost that the Condé does, so that's kind of a bonus, but this is still cruiser dispersion. So it's relatively accurate, to say the least. I mean, it's not like Petro where you're just hoping you hit something past 15 kilometers. You will hit things past 15 kilometers. And here we also get our first big step up in alpha. We now essentially have what Drake guns, not Drake HE alpha, thankfully. It's 3350 alpha, 39 millimeters of penetration. Still a really good fire chance, but Gimp Pen, Gimp's alpha, and very slow ballistics compared to the tier 8, which indicates that these are in fact Drake guns. You know, as if this wasn't obvious enough. Anyways. So yeah, now we've got a 35-second cooldown, a 14-second reload time on the guns, 35-second reload time on the burst fire, and the AP bonus has gone to 20%. So, slight step up in AP alpha, but I mean, that's a 20% boost. So, per shell, 5750 times 1.2 is what? 6,900. Nice. So 6,900 alpha per shell, and assuming that this does in fact get the insane penetration. Yeah, we're looking at a battleship killer here. Not gonna lie, we're looking at a pretty big battleship killer here. The only problem is the armor, and I'm gonna bring this up with the Castilla in a minute. But yeah, armor is definitely gonna be an issue. Torpedoes are slightly improved, 16.6 cal. I think this is freaking Benson warheads or something like that. Relatively short range, relatively good reload, probably good YOLO torps, but that's like close quarters type situation. AA has gone up, but again, it's AA. Not that it really matters in this game. Concealment appears to be relatively similar to the tier 8, so not too much of a change there. Smoke fire has gone up, speed's gone down, but the radius has actually decreased significantly from 860 to 850 to 800, so that's big. Rudder shift time has gone to 11.3 though, and rudder shift times at this tier, 11.3 is right there essentially, between Rhone and Buffalo. So that's not good. And Buffalo is notable for handling like a bit of a pig, so that's a bit unfortunate. I'm maybe drawing a lot of comparisons to Buffalo because it's, you know, that's another tier 9 cruiser. I mean, at the same time, though, we could actually be looking at our first good tech tree tier 9 cruiser since, like, Riga. Honestly. Like, because Riga's, like, the one good tech tree tier 9 cruiser that I can think of that doesn't absolutely suck. Like, Brindisi is also good. Donskoy is mediocre. San Luis is pretty good, but it kind of just a farmer. Sejong is also pretty decent, but it kind of explodes against 457. So, I mean, take your poison, I suppose. So this might actually end up being the first legitimately good tier 9 cruiser. Never mind, heavy cruiser, tier 9 cruiser, I should point out. Damage control, repair party, hydro DFA, fighter spotter, standard stuff. Anyways, now we're going to move on to the tier 10, the Castilla. Again, this looks very much like a Napoli, and again, I'm going to repeat myself. The Project 135 was based off of the Napoli. Well, the Project 135 ended up leading to the Napoli, or it should be, I think both were roughly developed at the same time. I'm going to have to double check my sources, though. I might not be entirely correct on that. Anyways. Castilla. Why did I say Catalunya? It's a tier 8. Castilla. Tier 9. 51,000 hit point. It's tier 10. Why am I saying tier 9? It's tier 10. Well, Shockwave, it's tier 10. Come on. Wake up. Wake up. Alright. 51,000 hit points. That puts it right around there. Des Moines, Nevsky, Venezia, Guden, roughly around that. A little bit more health. Good torpedo protection. 3x3 254s. Slightly longer range than the tier... no, it's the same range as the tier 9. 17.1 at tier 9. Again, another step up in HE, AP alpha. Slight step ups, but velocity has, you know, gone up by like nearly 100 meters per second. Or over 100 meters per second, actually. think. So that's useful. Sorry, my jaw's starting to cramp up. I'm gonna have to finish this quickly. 13-second reload compared to the tier 9, which is a 14-second reload, so that's to be noted. Burst interval on the tier 9 is 35 seconds. Or burst cooldown is 35 seconds on the tier 9. Now we've actually gone down to 30 seconds. Here's where I should state something important. The burst fire AP DPM is essentially the same as the regular fire AP DPM. Because, yeah, the timing doesn't exactly line up. It's 26 seconds to fire 2 salvos versus 30 seconds to fire that burst. But the DPM is compensated for by that improved AP penetration, and more importantly, the improved AP damage. Roughly the same. Because I kind of see where this is going, right? You can more or less fire. You have 2 bursts within that minute. That's 4 total. You're firing off essentially 4 total salvos in that time. I think it might actually get up. I think it might actually compensate on normal fire because you get 5 salvos off in that time. I think because if you have main battery mod 3. So yeah, that should be noted. So the AP. So again, these are Napoli guns. I should note Napoli guns. Now Napoli guns. They're not the most reliable in the world. Not the most reliable. But they do hit very hard. 600, roughly 650 millimeters of penetration initial, and pretty good energy retention. Even at maximum like maximum range of the Napoli is like 16.3, roughly. Still has 270 millimeters of penetration. Double it. Right? Double that. You still have 500 millimeters of penetration at those ranges, and considering Napoli ballistics, you're not going to be striking battleship armor at an odd angle where it'll shatter because the overall effective thickness is actually higher than the stated thickness in the armor viewer. So that's one thing to consider. The other thing to consider is that you have longer range than the Napoli by about 800 meters. Although, I mean, considering it's tier 10, this doesn't make a whole lot of a difference. Kind of does, but, like, whatever. So, yeah, that's something to note. Yeah. So, again, we don't know. If the penetration ends up being as insane as we think it is, this will end up having, like, 1,300 millimeters of base penetration. Or, if it's gimped, it'll end up having, like, 650, 700 millimeters of penetration with the all-fire, but we don't know that yet. So Airstrike gets a huge upgrade. Do they get 2 charges? I get 2 charges. It's like 700 damage. Okay, it's not. It's just it scales according to like unified values. But here's the other big thing that the Castilla has over the Napoli. Despite the lowered health, we don't know what the armor scheme will look like. It could be Napoli armor scheme, or it ends up being like 25 plus 30 millimeter penetration. Just gets overmatched to absolute oblivion, like most tier 10 cruisers do in this day and age. So that's one thing we don't know. We don't know what the armor looks like yet. I think it's not so much the armor as it is the plating, because plating is actually more important. Because if you're on broadside, even in a Napoli, it just dies, because, 30 millimeter turtleback isn't enough to save you on a full broadside from 457 overmatch. But the plating is important, because one, it'll determine how resistant it is to being HE spans. The other thing it'll determine is how resistant is it to being overmatched at steep angles? Because that's something that cruisers suffer with, and it's why people say cruisers suffer, because you can be overmatched by battleships regardless of angle, regardless of range, because 30 millimeter overmatch exists. Because once overmatch threshold is applied or passed, all the rules concerning overmatch are essentially ignored. So that determines to see whether or not this will legitimately be good. The guns are looking scary good, as is the concealment. 13.6 base concealment is actually slightly better than the tier 9 and the tier 8. So we're looking at like 11 kilometer concealment roughly. It doesn't break 11 kilometers, but it's roughly the same as the Goliath. Actually, let me see what the Tech by C. Songra is the highest. The cruisers around 13.6. Yeah, Goliath's 13.6. So roughly the same concealment as Goliath. Torpedoes also get slight boost. You get an extra launcher per rack with the same reload. That's kind of nice. A little bit of extra YOLO power. Damage control, repair, hydro, defe. You get the point. So again, these Spanish cruisers, these Tetra cruisers, could end up being one of two things. It could just be a gimmick boat that's like fun to play, fun to use if you want to like surprise people with that alt fire, but it could end up being kind of crap against more conventional cruisers. Or it ends up being nasty as shit because you can Citadel battleships halfway across the map. I don't know. We're gonna, well, not halfway. I mean, you get the point. We don't know that yet. Anyways, Shill. This is basically a tier 8 Graf Spee. You can sort of see that it does have an insane amount of health. 56.8k health is actually the highest HP pool out of all of the tier 8 cruisers, I believe. Yeah, it is, because it literally is. Why? Wargaming, why? We don't know. Anyways, I don't know. German memes, German engineering. Armor is supposed to be good. Ship has good HP pool and armor and a well-protected citadel with bad concealment. Yeah, we'll have to see about that. Plating could end up being, it could be 27 plus 27 here and then like a 30 deck. And then the turtleback armor might actually end up being pretty solid, but oh well. But here's the one big thing. Well, I mean, it's 27mm plating. We saw that. 27mm plating is big. Here's the other big thing. 30-second fires. Why is that important? All the battle cruisers in this tier, all right? Congress, Cherbourg, and Haarlem have 60-second fires. This does not. Haarlem has 60-second fires. Why is that important? 30-second fire is a standard cruiser fire duration. The means is, if you get set on fire, you aren't going to burn nearly as long. That's a problem that plagues pretty much every single battle, has plagued pretty much every single battle cruiser ever since the skills rework, where they can no longer take fire prevention or basic survivability to address fire problems. So this is a big relief. Torpedo protection is pretty good. Guns look, I mean, these are Graf Spee guns, essentially. They have relatively similar values. So non-surprising. But here's the critical thing. That dispersion value. 17.3 kilometer range, that's the dispersion value. That's cruiser dispersion. We can determine that. It determined that being cruiser dispersion. 16.5 second reload is long, but it's shorter than, I mean, okay, yeah, let's be honest. It's a hell of a lot shorter than whatever the heck this is. I don't know why Cherbourg got its reload nerfed. I mean, beats me. That's like in league with like Tone, Otago, Amalfi, 16.5, roughly around that. Definitely a lot better than Congress or Cherbourg. Turtreverse might also be pretty good. It's Germans. Okay, thank God I didn't actually pick it up. Sorry, my roommate was in the back there. Anyways, so reload time is 16.5, puts it in relatively poor company, but looks to be relatively accurate. Don't know about the penetration though. Fire chance is pretty good. HE alpha is kind of sucky. HE pen's actually really good though, so you can probably use it to pepper some battleships if you need to. You could probably get away with penning some decks on upper belts. Oh, never mind. Turn time's here, 25 seconds. Okay, so it's pretty good. Sigma's 2.0, so that's good as well. Airstrike, it's got airstrikes instead of manual depth charges, instead of ship launch depth charges, which is nice. That's actually good. Torpedo tubes, unfortunately, torpedoes don't. They appear to just be standard run source, which kind of sucks because if it had better torps, I would have been like, hey, you can brawl with this. But you can't, unfortunately. Secondary armament is slightly improved over the Spee. I mean, of course. I mean, you're probably wondering, well, why am I comparing this to the Graf Spee? Because that's what this is. It's literally just a tier 8 Graf Spee. So obviously, I'm going to draw a lot of comparisons to it. Compared to the other tier 8 cruisers, though, I mean, secondary armament does seem to be very heavy, and it also has a very long range. 7.6 kilometer range on secondaries is a lot longer than most. What was the range on tier 8 secondaries, anyways? I don't know. Fitting tool. Let's just take a look at Hipper for reference. Secondary range is 7.6. Oh no, it's just standard secondary range, I think. Cruiser, Amalfi. I hope it's the second. Oh no, do the Germans actually get longer secondary range? Oh, the Germans and the French get longer secondary range. Oh, I'm done. Okay. So yeah, standard German secondary range, it appears to be. So fairly heavy broadside though, actually. Having 6 2-in 105s and 2 triple 150s is actually kind of good. I wonder if these might actually get some kind of improved dispersion for the memes. AA unfortunately sucks. Good short range, a lot of short range. Unfortunately, it's too short range. Mid range, I'm hoping that the 21 is a typo. Because the 4 twin 37mm should not be putting out 21 DPS. It should be like 100 DPS easily. I don't know. Wargaming. 6 flak, kind of a lot. It's kind of good. 32.5, slow. 32.5 knots is like... Yeah. Martel speed. And it doesn't get an engine boost, which kind of sucks, but it's whatever. 760 radius is like round there. So that's actually pretty good. Not like it's not like Wichita levels of what the heck is this? Nor is it's not like Cherbourg levels of how does it turn this well? Because Cherbourg has some weird handling characteristics. But it's actually pretty good. Surface detectability is 14.5. What's 14.5? What are the cruisers 14.5 at this tier? Yeah, cruiser at 14.5. Eugen. Okay, so it's 11.7. 11.7, 11.8 kilometer concealment. This is not bad. But especially for a battle cruiser like this. So, I don't know. Smoke fire penalty to be expected, obviously. Now, here's the critical difference. This doesn't get a heal. So, that's an issue. This cruiser doesn't get a heal, where the Spee does. It does get a lot of health, though. So, that's kind of a bonus, but at the same time, not having a heal is a big liability. Again, as I said earlier, cruisers need heals because battleships exist. You get up tiered in this thing to tier 10, and you have like a Yamato that just obliterates you for like 2/3 of your health in one go. If you were in a Garage Spee, I mean, you probably would have died, but assuming you lived, you probably could have healed about half of that back. You do get the German Hydra, though, so that's kind of useful. I mean, I'm not sure how useful your DPM will be against the DD, but we'll see. Okay, as I said, Von Spee, it's a cool-looking Harlem. I love this camo. Cool-looking Harlem, but again, we don't have stats on this, so we'll have to see. It does say we'll have Hydro, DFA, and short cooldown repair. That's the same as Harlan, though. 9.203mm guns, which could do good DPM with an airstrike with long, good range. Well-protected Citadel concealment, but short firing range and long cooldown on low number of charges on her airstrike. So it might just end up being a Harlan at tier 9 with a main battery buff, for all we know. Oh well. Anyways, here's the last ship that we are going to cover. Actually, I do have one more ship, but it's the Dmitry Pozharsky, and I'm not really interested in covering it because it's basically just a Kutuzov with AP, with improved AP instead of HE for some reason, for some odd reason, short cooldown runes, whatever. Anyways, Liu Shun, this is a Noistrashimi, essentially. So, as it says, I'm gonna go over this one. Because Shell isn't really that interesting. It's just another fancy German project, whatever. Yushin is a little bit more interesting. It was developed in conjunction between the PRC and the USSR. Basically, you get the Type 41, Project 41 destroyers, and the Type 051s out of it. Two pretty good ships, actually, for the Eastern blocks, I suppose. But yeah, it's basically just a Nostrashimi up-tiered to tier 10. It has ballistics, 10 torpedo tubes with good torpedo. I mean, this is basically just a side grade Yang, essentially. Or like a tier 10 Silivangi, if you want to put it like that. So let's take a look. 20,500 health, 19mm plating. Actually, pretty good values for tier 10 DD. I don't know where that puts it, though. Let's just take a look. So, take that off. Cruiser. Tier 10, and we'll go tier 10, and we'll go, that's all of them. So health pool is, okay, so yeah, 20,500. So that puts it between D52 and Daring. So it's a decent amount of health. With survivability expert, you get around to like 25,000, roughly. 24,000, roughly. So that's pretty good. It's not like Albing levels of insane health. I don't know why Albing has 30,000 health on DD, like, Jesus. Anyways, so Nostrashimi guns, essentially 2x2 130s. I find this to be an unnecessarily long firing range, considering that this is literally a torpedo destroyer, as stated. I mean, it's a Nostrashimi. Nostrashimi is a torpedo destroyer that's just also has to be very good at surviving. But as you can see, it doesn't survive very well because no heal. I'm not advocating for destroyers getting heal, every destroyer getting heals, because that would be dumb, frankly. Like, could you imagine Shimikaze with a heal? Like, that would be a nightmare to deal with. Or like, God, Colbert with the heal, or like Marceau with the heal. Like, not every destroyer should get heals. I know some people are like, oh my god, destroyers should get heals. But it's like, then what's the downside? Why would you play cruisers when you could literally play gunboat destroyers and do the same freaking thing and not have any problems because you got heals, guys? I got a heal, guys. I can go in there, take like half my health, and I'll be fine. Because, yeah, I'm sure Marcel with the heals work out just fine. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. So again, standard, this is basically the same as, you know, the Nostrashimi, same Nostrashimi guns, essentially. So nothing out of the ordinary. Depth charges appear to be fairly standard Pan Asian. So here's the real kicker. This actually gets Nostrashimi torpedoes. Same reload, same range, same speed, same pretty good 1.3 kilometer detectability on torpedoes is actually really good. Like, I would say the ideal detectability would be like 1.2, 1.4. Anything lower on this kind of speed is kind of busted. Anything higher is kind of trash. I mean, we could see this with like Type 93, the 20 kilometers on the Shima. AA is predictably trash, obviously. Speed's low. Turning radius is kind of mediocre. I mean, what's this? Let me just take a look here really quickly. Top speed on these DDs. Yeah, so it's the bottom of the pack. 36, same as gearing. But unlike the gearing, it does not get a engine boost either. So that's something to consider. The other issue is, again, no heal like the Nostrashimi. But then again, Nostrashimi can be kind of irritating to fight because it's a super heal. So make of that what you will. But yeah, so low speed, relatively okay-ish handling. I mean, that turning radius is massive. 700 meters is the same as Z52. And all the really good DDs have like 620 millimeter turning radius, and then you have Albing at 890. Like, it's slight middle of the pack with Z52, obviously, but it's not very fast, and it's actually has worse concealment than Nostrashimi. Not sure why it doesn't have the same concealment. Nostrashimi is 7 kilometers flat, 7.2, so that minimizes to 5.8 kilometer concealment. So this is basically Yu Yang concealment, gearing slightly worse. You have Vampire at, Summer's Shimikaze. Like, I believe, yeah, Nostrashimi has 6.9 kilometer concealment, which allows it to minimize to 5.6. But otherwise, yeah, this is not this is not outstanding concealment, so to speak. If we're taking a look at this. Consumables, you get damage control, smoke. This is the Pan Asian smoke. This is a very, very, very good smoke generator. I actually say this is probably one of the better smoke generators in the game. Outside of the this is one of the 3 best smoke generators in the game. You have the American smoke, you have the British smoke, and you have the Pan Asian smoke, on the DDs at least. The American smoke, because you have the long deploy time and the long uptime of the smoke. The British smoke, because short uptime, but short deploy, wide radius, and you also have a lot of charges, and very fast cooldown on the smoke as well. And this Pan Asian smoke, because you get the benefit of a pretty good reload time, 100 seconds. So by the time your smoke puff is up, you only have 30 seconds until your next smoke is ready. You also get a lot of charge to this. That's very useful. And you get the Hydro. Now, this is a bit of a questionable thing, and I say this because it's Torpedo Destroyer with the Hydro, and Torpedo Destroyers, I mean, if you're going to play a Hydro, you're going to end up more or less playing aggressively, like Z42 or Z52 or and like if you have Hydro. And the other thing is we don't know what the Hydro is. We think it might be the same Hydro on the Silivangi, or it could also be the same Hydro on the Low Yang with the 5.5 kilometer range. but we'll have to see. And you also do get the Golden Boy, the Torpedo Reload Booster. The TRB, I think this is the same TRB as in the Pan Asian Destroyers recently got. I think the Pan Asian DDs have had the TRB for a while now, but this is a nice addition. You can send 20 torpedoes into the water. Overall, looks kind of okay. So my overall take on this, event space remains to be seen. Shield looks pretty decent, but can probably use some work, needs a heal, probably, because it is probably enormous. These Spanish cruisers, it's also varied opinion. I mean, these could end up being stupidly overpowered or not that good at all. Like, kind of mediocre, middle of the pack. Or, you know, just completely terrible. But yeah. So yeah, that's going to be it for me today, guys. I know, a bit of a long video, 1 hour, 10 minutes. That's, you know, this is basically, you guys have basically just been watching me ramble about ships for 1 hour and 10 minutes without actual gameplay. Just before I go, do note 2 things. 1, the statistics of these ships can change at any time, as stated by Wargaming, and we have testing procedures for this. And these ships are currently NDA. These have not been released to testers yet. I expect these will probably be released with the next patch or something like that or the other. But yeah, until the next time, I will probably be making another one of these fairly soon, when the next set of ships releases. I know we did have some recent ship releases, Jaeger, West Virginia 44, finally, and the Halford, and a couple of others, but I will not be covering those because those have probably already been covered very exhaustively by others. So anyways, that's all for me. Thank you all, and have a good night. Shockwave is out.